Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. Today we face heartbreaking news for Pastor Joel Osteen, a man whose name has become synonymous with hope, faith, and resilience, is now walking through one of the most challenging chapters of his life. For decades, Joel Osteen has been a source of light for millions. His journey began not with ambition or the hunger for fame, but with hesitation. He never wanted the spotlight. He was the quiet son of a preacher, more comfortable behind the camera than on the stage. His father, John Osteen, built Lakewood Church from humble beginnings, and Joel served as the man who produced his father's sermons for television. He avoided the pulpit, convinced it wasn't his calling. But everything changed in 1999 when his father suddenly passed away. With no warning, the weight of an entire ministry fell onto Joel's shoulders. At first, many doubted him. He didn't have the fiery preaching style of his father. He wasn't a traditional pastor. But Joel stepped into the pulpit with a calm voice, a warm smile, and a message of hope that the world desperately needed. And people listened. Week after week, Lakewood Church filled to capacity. Soon they had to move to a massive new arena to hold the tens of thousands who wanted to hear him speak. Television networks carried his sermons worldwide. His books climbed the bestseller lists. Joel Osteen became a household name, a pastor to millions who never even set foot inside a church. But with fame came criticism. Many accused him of preaching a gospel that was too easy, too focused on prosperity and success rather than sacrifice and hardship. Others attacked his personal wealth, questioning how a pastor could live in luxury while preaching about faith. Through it all, Joel responded the only way he knew how, with a smile, with words of encouragement, and with silence toward his harshest critics. And yet, behind that smile, life has not been free of heartbreak. Joel Osteen has endured personal battles that are rarely seen by the public eye. His family has carried private pain. His health has been tested. His reputation has been attacked again and again in the media. Each time he has stood on stage speaking words of hope while quietly bearing the weight of struggles most of us could never imagine. The heartbreaking news today is not about one single tragedy, but about the reality of his humanity. Joel Osteen, the man millions look to for strength, is now in a season where he too needs strength. Reports of his declining energy, the heavy toll of constant criticism, and the pressures of leading one of the world's largest churches paint a picture of a man stretched to his limit. Even pastors, even leaders, even those who seem untouchable are not immune to heartbreak. Imagine what it means to carry the expectations of millions, to be the man who must always smile, always encourage, always stand tall, even when your own spirit feels weak. Joel has often said, "You may feel weak, but when you rely on God, you can be strong." And now, perhaps more than ever, he is living those very words. For his congregation, the news is painful. This is the man who told us that our best days are still ahead. The man who reminded us that with faith, mountains can move. To hear that he is struggling, to know that he is hurting, feels like a wound in the heart of those who follow him. Because if Joel Osteen, the eternal optimist, is facing heartbreak, what does that mean for the rest of us? But maybe that is where the deeper truth lies. Joel Osteen's story was never about being perfect. It was never about living a life free of storms. His story has always been about finding light in the darkness, finding peace in the chaos, and finding faith in the middle of fear. His heartbreak doesn't make his message weaker. In fact, it makes it more real. Think about it. How often do we look at our leaders, our heroes, our pastors, and imagine that they are somehow above pain, that their lives are smoother, easier, untouched by the grief that weighs us down? But Joel's current struggle shatters that illusion. It shows us that he is human, that he bleeds, that he cries, that he suffers, and yet he continues to stand. The heartbreaking news is that Joel Osteen is not invincible. But the hope in this news is that even in heartbreak, his faith remains. He continues to speak words of encouragement, even when he himself is walking through shadows. That takes a strength far greater than perfection. It takes courage. As we reflect on Joel Osteen's journey, from the quiet son who never wanted the Staged to the pastor of one of the world's largest churches, we begin to see the pattern of his life. Every heartbreak, every criticism, every trial has been woven into his story to show one simple truth. Faith is not the absence of pain, but the power to rise despite it. So what does this mean for us? It means that if Joel Osteen, the man who has lifted so many, can face heartbreak and keep moving forward, then maybe we can too. His story reminds us that even the people we see as pillars of strength are human at the core. They too carry pain. They too wrestle with doubt. They too sometimes wake up wondering if they have the strength to make it through another day. Joel's heartbreak is a mirror for our own. How many times have you carried a silent battle that no one else could see? How many mornings have you put on a brave face for the world while quietly breaking inside? This is what makes his journey so deeply relatable. He doesn't just speak from the mountaintop, he speaks from the valley too. And in that valley, he shows us that it is possible to keep moving forward. The heartbreaking news for Pastor Joel Osteen is not just about one man's struggles. It is a reminder of something universal, that life will always test us, that storms are inevitable, that no one, no matter how famous, no matter how strong, no matter how faithful, is spared from suffering. But hidden within that truth is something just as powerful. If suffering is universal, so is resilience. If pain touches us all, then so does the possibility of rising above it. Think about what Joel has faced. The criticism, the endless demands of leading a global church, the whispers that his message was too simple, too polished, too unrealistic, and now the weight of personal heartbreak that presses down when the cameras are off and the lights go dark. Yet in the middle of it all, he still chooses to stand before the world with words of encouragement. That is not the absence of pain. That is the definition of courage. Maybe that's the real lesson for us, that we don't need to be free from heartbreak to keep going. We don't need to wait until life is perfect to find meaning. We simply need to take one step forward, even when our knees are trembling. Joel Osteen is showing us that strength is not about looking unshakable. It's about refusing to stay down when you fall. And this lesson stretches beyond his own story. It reaches into ours. Every setback you've endured, every loss you've faced, every time you thought the story was over. What if those weren't endings at all, but beginnings? What if your heartbreak is the soil where hope is planted? What if the very thing that broke you could become the reason you rise higher than you ever imagined? Joel's journey is a reminder that heartbreak is not weakness. It is a chapter in the story of strength. And sometimes the cracks in our hearts are where the light shines through the brightest. His pain doesn't discredit his message. It deepens it. It shows us that even the man who has built his life on hope is not immune to despair. But he refuses to let despair have the final word. So maybe the heartbreaking news for Pastor Joel Osteen is not the end of his story. Maybe it is the moment that makes his message more powerful than ever before, because when you see someone stand tall without ever falling, it can feel out of reach. But when you see someone fall, break, struggle, and still rise, it tells you that you can rise too, and that is where the hope lies, in knowing that heartbreak is not final, in trusting that even in your darkest moment, a brighter chapter may be waiting. Joel Osteen is living proof of this truth, even now as he carries his own pain, because if he can endure this, if he can walk through heartbreak and still rise, maybe you can too.